What is up, Molt Mafia? I am super excited to bring y'all this interview today with Cowboys Ring of Honor inductee, Mr. Darren Woodson. Mr. Woodson and I in this video discuss everything from his Hall of Fame path to his ESPN career, to even currently his commercial real estate business. So I'm super excited to bring y'all this episode, and I hope y'all enjoy. I'm here today with 5-time Pro Bowler, 3-time All-Pro, 3-time Super Bowl champion, Mr. Darren Woodson. It's a pleasure being here, Mr. Woodson.
Cole, it's a pleasure to be on the show, man.
Well, I'm excited to have you.
We've been neighbors forever, man. You finally got to get me on the show, brother. You got to ask
Finally
me to get on. Finally, yes.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to do this. It means a lot. And so obviously a big topic with, Dallas sports fans, whatever, is why you're not in the Hall of Fame. That's a huge thing, is what's happened, like what's going on. And I was doing some research on it, and I saw that you in a podcast with George Teague said you've kind of let go. You've let it, it is what it is now. What led you from going, oh man, I really hope I get the gold jacket, and now you're easy going about it?
Because I realized that I can't control the dynamics of getting in the Hall of Fame. And all I can do is put the body of work out on the football field and then hope that the writers can all agree that I'm a Hall of Famer. And, me worrying about it or worrying about, well, how did this guy go in before me and all that, I have no control of that. So once I got to that point, and this is probably about 7 or 8 years ago, I got to that place where I just didn't concern myself with it. Matter of fact, my wife and friends will say, hey, the Hall of Fame's coming up, people are voting, and I'll lose track of it. I really will. And, look, do I want to be a Hall of Famer? Absolutely. If I feel like I'm deserving, absolutely. But I can't control getting in, and that's way out of my control.
Absolutely. And I actually, obviously, I grew up in a Cowboys family. My dad's talked about it multiple times. One of the first things he said when we found out that it was you moving into this house, he was like, God, when is he going to get in the Hall of Fame? So, all the Dallas fans think that. And you were actually a finalist for it last year.
Just last year, yeah.
And was that something that kind of re-sparked the, want to be in the Hall of Fame? Or were you still just kind of like, I can't control it?
I still had the mentality of, I still can't control it. It felt great to be a finalist. I felt like, man, it's about time I'm actually a finalist. But, at the same time, it was, it's a process. And I know it's a process. And there's a lot of other young men that have, or older men that have gone through this process as well. There's a guy named Drew Pearson, who
right,
I firmly believe should have went in the Hall of Fame sometime in the 80s. And he finally went in 2 or 3 years ago. So it just, it is a process. And when we got there as a finalist, I thought, okay, I'm a step closer. But again, I'm not in control. And, all the things I can control, I will definitely do those things. But outside of that, my family prays for me. My friends are praying for me to get in. It's going to happen someday.
Right, absolutely.
I'm a believer that it's going to happen. It's just, I'd like it to happen if I didn't have, without me walking up there with an oxygen tank on or whatnot, or a wheelchair. I want to, I want to walk up there and actually speak.
Absolutely. And I was looking at, safeties that are already in the Hall of Fame, and I compared one of the careers that I found of a guy that's already in the Hall of Fame was Rondé Barber. And I compared, stats, Super Bowls, all that. And that was just, side note, confusing. Y'all had almost identical, you had Super Bowls added to yours.
Yeah.
And that was just a little confusing to me to see that. But that's beside the point.
I think the guys that are in are deserving.
Right.
Rondé Barber was an absolute awesome football player. He was one of the greats and did a lot of great things. And, you mentioned, not just Rondé Barber, but there were so many other safeties and defensive players that have gone in. I'm happy to start to see guys go in and get recognized at that position. I'm happy for every last one of them, because for the longest time, Cole, safeties weren't recognized as Hall of Famers. They weren't just putting us in the way they're putting us in over the last 7 or 8 years. So at least the writers are saying there was value. They're seeing the value in that safety position. And I think that, for me, I'd like for the writers to understand that, well, I played multiple positions, not just safety. I played linebacker. I played the cornerback position. So at some point they have to recognize me for the diversity.
Right.
And the ability to be flexible in the defense and make plays.
Absolutely. And one thing I did notice in almost all the things I read about you coming up to this was your speed. 4.34.
Yeah.
Ran at Arizona State. and you kind of became one of the first cover safeties,
Yeah.
if not the first cover safety. How does that feel to know that you kind of rebranded a whole new position in football?
Yeah,
That's got to be
well, that
awesome.
was a nickelback position, and it's how they play it today. And most of those players are cornerbacks that are playing the nickel back position, like Rondé Barber did when he was
Right.
playing. But I was probably one of the first safety. And there was a player named Carnell Lake that came out of UCLA. I think it about 3 or 4 years before I came out of Arizona State. And Carnell was a linebacker in college at
Okay.
UCLA. Got drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers, played safety, and then they moved him to corner. And I would basically, I used to watch Carnell make the adjustments and play that game the way he played it. And I felt like I could foot in those same footsteps because I had the speed, I had the strength, I had the size to play multiple positions. And that's what allowed us to do a lot of things with our defense. So we didn't have to take a safety off the field or take me off the field to bring a corner in to match up with a slot guy. I just played every single down, and I was able to, match up extremely well with a lot of the slot receivers or the tight ends or whatnot.
Absolutely. I mean, you played with guys like Michael Irvin.
Yeah.
What was that like guarding, obviously, as a player, but as a personality?
Yeah.
The
Well, we had a
playmaker.
lot of personalities in the 90s, and I'm
Yeah.
sure your dad could probably tell you about that. But it was, Michael Irvin was a guy who was a great leader, a guy who had tremendous work ethic. He showed up early every day, got home late, worked out like a monster every single day. And I think it was one of those things when I came in as a 22-year-old rookie, I was looking at guys like Michael Irvin and Charles Haley and Emmitt Smith and Troy Aikman. And I was watching these guys who are all pros work out and put work in and be true professionals. And that's what really allowed me to take the next step in my career. It wasn't just about what you did on the football field. It was the study and the preparation, getting ready for Sunday's games. And then how did you take care of your body on Monday through Sunday again, as far as getting ready for practice and going to make sure you're getting the ice tubs, which you know a lot about,
Yes,
getting the
sir.
ice tubs and make
Yes,
sure your
sir.
body's right the next time around. So, they taught me how to be professionals early on in my career.
That's awesome to hear that Michael Irvin had, because I don't know a whole lot about him, not just on game day. So that's awesome to hear that he was a great leader, led by example.
Yeah,
Something I didn't know about.
And he's a loudmouth. Talk a lot of
yeah,
trash,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Of course. Yeah.
Very entertaining television.
Every
Very
wide receiver,
entertaining.
every wide receiver talks trash. Have you noticed that? Like,
Yeah.
the further you get away from the ball, right? So from that center position, nose guard position on defense side of the ball, and then you get further out. The further out you get, wide receivers, cornerbacks are the best trash talkers on the field. So, yeah.
Jalen Ramsey, for example, one of the
Jalen
best
Ramsey.
trash talkers in the league.
Yeah.
So after your career with Dallas, a few years after you retired, you joined the NFL, ESPN.
Yeah.
So how was that experience, being in Bristol, Connecticut, and were you living here at the time?
I was living here. Yes, living here and traveling up every Wednesday through Friday.
How was that, going up to do all that?
It was an adjustment because, look, Colt, for, most of my life, I was a football player. Started when I was 7 years old. Went on to high school, went on to college, went on to pros, and then I retired when I was 36. So most of my life was the football field or some type of sport along the way, specifically when I was early on in my life. But when I retired, I didn't know exactly what I was going to do. And I didn't have any journalism background. Now, I know that ESPN and Fox and CBS, everyone wanted to recruit me while I was playing the game. And I always told them, look, I'm still playing. This is year 9. I got 3 or 4 more years, but I knew there was interest in me doing so. But when I retired, instantly my phone was ringing about going out and interviewing for jobs. Ended up landing at ESPN, and I had zero experience in front of the camera, and it was a whooping. It really was, man. I had to practice. I had to hire a coach. I was not good for 2, 3, maybe 4 years in front of that camera. And I never really felt comfortable until like year 4 or 5 because I didn't have that background. And if you don't, if you're not in front of the camera a lot or if you're not practicing a lot, you're going to struggle. And it's no different than, preparing for a football game. You have to practice being in front of the camera, body language, knowing where your eyes need to be and how you're talking to folks and your voice inflection and whatnot. So it took me some time to get there. And once I finally got there, then I felt comfortable, man. But it was a ton of hard work and a lot of humility because, I got, there was a lot of trash talking from my friends who were like, what
Really?
the heck are you talking about up there? But I had some really good mentors over at ESPN that helped me along the way.
That's awesome. And then, a few years back, you called it at ESPN. What led to the decision, to come back and just live in Dallas with your family? What was the
So I always
thought
lived
process?
here. I never
Right.
moved to ESPN. So I traveled every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and I came back. I think one of the reasons why I made the decisions because I wanted to spend more time with my family. One,
Right.
because I was tired of traveling as much, and I was getting into commercial real estate and
Okay.
at a partner level, and it was getting serious. The business was getting serious, and I couldn't do both. And I'll be honest with you, I got burnt out with TV.
Really?
I really did. I mean, being in football since I was 7 years old, I stopped growing as far as, my brain was just stuck on one mode, and that was football, football, football. And I wanted to do so many other things
Okay.
and
Yeah.
accomplish more things in life. And business has always been something that I always wanted to get involved with. So commercial real estate was there for me. I needed to grow up, put my pants on, and get back into the corporate world, and which was a dream. And I finally made the decision one day to say, look, I want to be home. I want to learn this business. I want to spend more time with my family. And I left ESPN.
All right. Well, you were on TV, whatever. Everyone knew everything about you
Yeah.
for those years. And once you went to commercial real estate, you're not on
Yeah,
Sunday
you're not
morning
on TV.
ESPN anymore.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
how is commercial real estate going?
Oh, it's going great. It's going great. It's a part of my life that listen. It's been a part of my life for a long time, and I was more of an investor. Now I'm a partner in the firm, and I have been for the last 8 or 9 years now. But it's a challenge. It really is, and it's a lot like everything else I've done in my career. All the transitions that I've had to make in football, I've always had to get better, figure out a way to get better and better and better. When I transitioned out of there, I went to ESPN, which was a tough transition where I had to work, put extra time in. There were no sleep days. It was just work, 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 try to get better and better. And commercial real estate is no different. It was no different. I came in, had to have a lot of humility in the process. It took me a long time to learn the business, get an understanding, know the vernacular, how to partner with people, who my mentors were, and what kind of information they were getting. It was a complete learning process over and over again. And I think the one thing that's helped me in those transitions along the way is just humility, is just understanding that you're starting over again. It's okay to listen, not be the center of attention. Try to soak up as much information as you can and learn whatever it is you want to learn, and just make sure you take your time in the process.
That's great that's going awesome for you. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's fun to hear the non-football side of the story, which is what everyone knows you for.
Yeah.
You got your own business that's going wonderful right now.
It is. It's going wonderful, but it's work, man. It's
right.
It's no different than being on the football field and preparing and practicing every day. It's work. You show up every day as a professional. You show up early. You make sure you're available. And football is the same as the business world. You make sure you're there early enough in the day. You're available to those that need you, and you continue to learn. And every day is a new day. Every day is a new day.
That's awesome. That's all I've got for you today. But man, I really appreciate you taking the time out of, obviously you got a packed schedule. I really appreciate you taking the time. And
no problem, Cole. Thank you, brother. Good luck, man.
I appreciate it.
Good luck in the football season, brother.
Hey, I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to it. If ever, if we're back in town, and you're willing to be on another episode of Molt Mafia.
Come on, man. Hey, about time you actually asked me to come on, though.
Well, I appreciate your willingness to do this. I'm Cole Burk with Molt Mafia. This is Darren Woodson. Thank you all for watching. All right, that's it.
Man, cool. You're good, dude.
Appreciate it.
You're
Thank
a
you.
pro at this. That's easy to set that up. How you set it up pretty easy.